been a while since I've been in a transmission. But today is the day, our lucky day. Working on a 97 K2500 Suburban. This is Diet. And Diet is experiencing some kind of delayed shifts and a little bit hesitant. And if you manually shift it first through fourth, it seems to be doing okay. So my first thinker in went, okay, we should do shift solenoids and obviously fluid and filter change because we're going to be in there. And then might as well, since we've got 35-inch tires and a 454, might as well just go with a little shift kit, just a mild one, not the big major one. We won't be doing any work inside the pump because we're not pulling the transmission today. So we're just going to do the little holes and springs and all those things. Maybe take out a ball. We're going to go through the instructions, not just think what needs to happen. So let's get to it. So although I do genuinely hope that this helps somebody, oftentimes I record myself doing things like this because it definitely helps with reassembly. So I can kind of come in here and go, okay, I can see this tab on this bolt holding this tube in place, so that's going to be necessary. I can see where my harness comes through to some of these solenoids, so that's important, right? And all that jazz. So I'm gonna pop a couple things apart here and start undoing some screws. Now there's some 8mm bolt heads, there's some 10mm bolt heads, and there's a handful that are different lengths. So I'll try to keep them separate and make a couple notes. You can see this spring here. This is your park or detent spring. So this holds you in gears, and that spring is kind of flexing up, so I need to be aware of that, you know, and all those things. So that is why I do record this. Once again, I preach this quite often. This is a paint can opener, but I keep it in my toolbox for taking connections like that apart, for taking those little inner fender well clips apart, and all that. Now, once again, we are in the vehicle, obviously, and it's kind of funny. I don't think it's possible to ever get a transmission to quit dripping, and it's going to continue to drip until we pretty much put it back together. So I'll just keep dabbing, more or less, because as dirty as I get, I don't actually enjoy transmission fluid dripping on me. Sometimes it's just a given that it's going to happen. All right, the harness is mostly out of the way. I also very often in my mechanic workings videos kind of explain that there's times where I prefer to work on vehicles with wrenches and not use power tools. For this reason, I can oftentimes feel a good or bad thread. I can feel kind of a torque, whether things are going together well or not. And there's all kinds of other advantages to working with hand tools. Now, for someone who doesn't have power tools, they're kind of a must. And they're a great way to start your tool collection if you don't have one. For example, I'm working with a 224 piece Husky set that I actually bought at Home Depot. And I was in there the other day getting some roofing materials, and they were on sale again for $99. I almost bought another set, but I've got so many of them, I figured at this point I probably should just refrain from buying more tool sets. So that's that. I'm just taking anything apart that kind of has anything special. These little spring clips just hold the wire harness in place. If I'm doing anything like that I can to make reference, and then I'm going to start zipping stuff apart. Now, right, wrong, or indifferent, there's a tool that I refer to, or have referred to my whole life, as a Polish impact. I think it's called like a speed handle or something. I think I'm going to grab one of those real quick, because when I'm taking stuff apart, I can still feel my threads, I can feel everything. And that's definitely going to speed up my process. Polish impact. See, there's one I can reference. I need to make sure that this is tight before I take this plate, before I put this plate back on. Perfect windy day to be working on stuff. I'm doing everything I can to control my oil, my mess. So I have my transmission pan directly under the transmission. So for the most part, all of these drips, if they don't get on me, they'll get back into the pan. And then I can put it in my drain receptacle later. Now, I learned a lot at a young age about automotive. I went to a vocational skills center in high school, and not only did I go there, my instructor, his wife was in another state at college, so I worked in the morning at Co-op at a tool and die shop, and I'd go to school for a little while, and then I would go to auto shop. Well, my work for the day was done as far as a paycheck went, and my teacher, Mr. Powell, at Ionia Heartland's Center or Institute of Technology. Mr. Powell, his wife, was out of state, so he didn't have any real reason to go home. So we worked on a lot of projects together. And so I've learned a lot by trial and error. I must say that I learned a lot in school, in class. And one of the things that Mr. Powell taught me is that transmission fluid, automatic transmission fluid, is almost more of a detergent than a lubricant. So you may or may not believe me here, but if you're a believer in fuel injector cleaner or sea foam or any other type of additive to clean your oil or fuel system, you probably need to know that automatic transmission fluid does it better. And I am not afraid to put a quart of transmission fluid in my fuel tank, whether diesel or gas. I am not afraid to mix a little extra transmission fluid, a little heavy on the mix side for a 2-stroke application. I am not afraid to put transmission fluid into my engine crankcase. I'm not afraid to dump it right down a carburetor. So it does a lot of cool stuff. Automatic transmission fluid is. So I do believe I have one screw left. This valve body will come down. I also believe that this is probably going to be one of the messiest parts of this job. This is when a lot of the fluid's going to come down and kind of not be very controllable. And also, I need to be aware of the fact that there are check balls in numerous places. And this is important to know because those check balls kind of need to go back into those places, right? Now the kit may or may not come with a couple oversized ones, and it may or may not tell me to omit a couple. Well, I know one time, I think I might even have a video, I think on my 4L60E I had a little series on. I had the pan off, I don't know, 3 or 4 times trying to figure out what I did wrong, and it ended up being that some of the check balls were missing. I think it was 2. 2 check balls were missing. It still went down the road, but it just didn't act right. So that's just something to remember. I'm going to switch gears. Go back to my ratchet, since I'm not worried about speed right now, but more control would be a good thing. Woo. So there's the valve body. And I don't know how much you can see, but I can see some check balls. I see 5, 7 of them. And a little accumulator that I've got to put down there for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Just keep in mind that, you know, nothing I'm doing takes very special tools so far. So if you've ever thought that a transmission's a scary thing, they're really not that bad. Really not bad at all. Gotta keep your work area clean. And so far we've used a 10mm socket, an 8mm socket, and associated drive tools. That's it. So it's probably something that you could easily tackle in your driveway. That's where I'm at. Benefits of looking at some things at different angles. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 check balls. And that lonely one there, that one I did not see originally. So we're gonna now check the instructions of the shift kit and see what to do.